The Board of Direct Entry Midwifery meeting is convened at 8:02 a.m. on May 28th, 2026. This meeting is being held in person and through Zoom video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. I will now call roll. Lennon Clark, Chairperson. Here. Rebecca Fisher.
Here.
Lori Headland.
Here.
Christine Morales.
Here.
Lynette Pettibone.
Here.
Misha Ronick. Okay. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Board members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. The Health Licensing Office asks that individuals attending through Zoom keep their phones muted and cameras off during the entire meeting or until they are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this board has statutory authority to regulate. Public members wishing to speak, please sign in on the roster sheet available in the room or email Josh Page at josh.page@oha.oregon.gov, and provide your first and last name. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, I believe.
Chair.
Yes.
Bob. Good morning. So we have an amendment for the agenda.
Right.
Approve it. Items 3 through 7 will not be held today. We'll be beginning with number 8.
Okay, so do we need a motion to amend the agenda then?
Yes.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to remove items 3 through 8?
Can I
Or
just
no, 3 through 7, right?
can I ask a question first?
Yeah.
Why are we not doing any executive session today?
There's one at the end.
Okay.
Oh, number 11. Okay.
So the
So
motion, Chair, the motion would be to approve the agenda as amended.
removing items 3 through 7. Okay. So does anybody want to make a motion for that?
This is Lynette Pettibone, and I move to amend the agenda as stated.
Anybody second?
This is Christine, I second.
I second. Okay. And we will now call for a vote. Lennon Clark, aye. Rebecca Fisher. I think you're unmuted.
Aye.
Okay. Lori Headland,
Aye.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
and Misha Ronick is not here still. Okay, that's approved. So then that means we're just going straight over to number 8.
Correct.
Okay.
And Chair, members of the board, may I ask real quick, how's the sound from in here? Is there a lot of echo?
It's kind of quiet, I would say. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, it's a little hard for me to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we'll tune it up a little bit. And then I also wanted to point out, I think it was Rebecca is a little hard to hear on our end.
Okay.
Anyway, all right.
Okay, so it's rules. So the board approved for the qualification, this is Sammy, qualification committee met in 2021 and 22. We had some work on in the office. Let me restart. So the board asked HLO to develop competencies and examinations for the Legend Drugs and Devices program. We are currently still working off of the 2001 original. There was a couple of iterations of it, but the same basic, how you get trained and show us proof that you've been trained. To change that up so that we know that you're being competent in all the areas, and then to actually have an exam to show that competency. So since 2021, HLO's been working on that with, originally it was with a qualification committee with Cerinthia, and subject matter experts. Maybe Holly Scholes was on there and several other people. And then I took over and did the rules. So then we had a rules committee. And the rules committee really drafted out the rules to incorporate the information that Cerinthia and her committee had worked on. So in January, you guys approved those proposed
Misha's
rules.
in the meeting now, just wanted to say.
Hi, Misha. So in January.
Hi, sorry to be late.
It's okay. Approved the proposed rules. And we got comments, so we put it out, actually put it out for about 60 days because in my original notice, when I have to file notice with Secretary of State saying the rules are open for public comment, here they are. What do you have to say about them? In that notice, there's a fiscal impact, and I did not get the fiscal impact accurate on what you could need to take the examinations, like what type of instruments and tools and supplies. So it was a lot more than I just didn't know what I was looking for. But somebody pointed it out. So we did that. So we opened it for another 28 days. And we did get some comment, which I summarized the comment in my hearings officer report. And then
Your audio is really spotty right now.
Starts on page 48, and then the actual comment is right behind that starting. Is right behind that starting
Are other people having a hard time hearing her?
things that
Yeah,
about.
I
Yeah,
can't hear.
Sammy,
Yeah.
the audio is really poor.
Okay, I'm gonna move around and see.
Is it possible? I feel like these meetings should either be all in one room, like everyone, or no one. Because it's really
All in one room.
It's really hard when there's people in a conference room and then people online. So if you guys could move back to your offices, that would be better.
Yeah, so this is Scott for the record, just letting everyone know that the internet connection is spotty right now. I just got a notification for that. So that's probably what everybody's experiencing. Thank you.
We have Brian in here now. I think he's one of the guys that's in charge of boardroom stuff, so he can hopefully hear some of the audio issues we're having.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit, but it's still really hard because you're in a really big room.
What's the room?
Yeah. I mean, you're less spotty. We can hear the whole sentence, but we have to strain. So if I could make a request in the future, it would be to either make all the board members come to the HLO and then do it in one big room, or to each have you back in your offices. Is there a reason that we're trying to make a switch?
Switch. Nobody's trying to make a switch.
Yeah.
Sammy and I are always in the room. They were in working on the equipment not too long ago.
We can take a couple minute break and I move to our desk.
You could also try a headset with a microphone.
At my desk, I have that.
All right, Chair, let's take a 5-minute break, please.
Yeah, we'll have
I filled out so we've been working on rules. We've been working on Legend Drugs and Devices program in the office for the board since about 2021, over several committee meetings, a qualification committee to develop competencies or practical competencies, skills assessment exam, and a written exam. So one committee worked really hard and had multiple meetings about that and developed a really thorough packet of information. And then our job as with the Rules Advisory Committee was to integrate that information as requirements into the rule. So and that was really pretty, it wasn't hard to do. We just attached it to an exam and made an application requirement. So instead of being able to apply for the license and then show us that you have a certificate when you renew. Now you have to actually show us when you applied that you passed those exams, and those exam scores would come directly from the proctor. So kind of working on those. So in January, you guys approved those proposed rules, and they were open for 60 days. I had to refile the notice to add more information about the fiscal impact regarding supplies that somebody may need for taking these exams. And it really depends on, is the proctor going to provide the supplies? Will the person bring the supplies? Will they pay the person? So we just kind of listed out what it would cost someone. And so we did get comment back from the, oh no. In the hearings officer report on page 48, I summarized the written public comment received. And then I summarized the verbal comment that was given at the hearing on the 29th of April. So would you like to go through, did everybody have a chance to read the information? We'll start there. I just got the hearings report done, so you would probably haven't read that yet.
I've looked through it.
I was able to look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Josh sent the public comment yesterday, so we have that at least.
Oh, I sent the public comment, I think,
Okay.
two weeks ago, maybe a week ago, week and a half.
It was recent, but we don't have, I don't know that I have this 48-page document. So
The hearings officer report?
Yeah.
I think Josh sent it yesterday afternoon it was in the materials and as a separate document, I believe.
no, that's only 7 pages. What he sent yesterday is only 7 pages.
Right. So
There was one email from him. I don't know if it was yesterday or
the 7
2 weeks,
pages
but there's more.
is
Yeah.
in the packet, and in the packet it starts on page 48. So the 7 pages and page 48 should be the same. Does that make sense?
Okay, we don't have the previous 47 pages.
Okay. I can send it, or
I mean, I have it somehow, so I must have seen it.
it should have came with the 7-page document.
It's the
Yeah.
other, it's the other. It's
There's
basically
2 documents.
It's 139
So it's part
pages.
of the
Yeah,
meeting materials?
yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Sammy, I think what you sent a couple weeks ago was just the recording, right? The raw recording, not necessarily the summary.
No, the summary definitely wasn't there. I sent a recording, and then the public comment from OMC and those people. Yeah, just to kind of give you guys a lead on. But the comments that we received really did a good job of getting everybody's kind of take on what they thought, pros, cons, and then other things that we hadn't considered about like EMTs and those people. So do you want to just go through, I mean, how do you want to do this, Lennon? Start
Yeah,
with
maybe we'll just go through that since maybe not everybody has seen it.
the public comment. Let's do
Yeah.
that. So page 49, so I started with the verbal comment because that was a hearing. Tiffany Marin basically reiterated what she had written in her written comments, which is she is in rural Oregon, and she's already a licensed midwife, and to have to retake the skills and written exams every 3 years would be burdensome for her, excessive burden if there was travel required, financial hardship if she had to, miss appointments, get somebody to cover, her clients. She thinks unnecessary duplication, having to show these competencies that they're doing, in their practice as midwives. Is repetitive and negative impact on definitely on rural midwives. A lot of people made the comment that this could drive currently licensed midwives back to the traditional midwife unlicensed side, and so there's that. And then the perception of disrespect and unfairness based on other healthcare professions don't have to do, a re-competency examination every for a renewal requirement. And I haven't been able to find one. I'm sure there's some out there, but I don't know of any in Oregon, at least in my, circle of licensing boards. So, Lori Carr reiterated the same things that Tiffany Marin did. She actually gave a little bit of information on how Washington implemented their legend drugs and devices. Unfortunately, their laws are different than ours, and we have to do them, the way Oregon's laws are written. But she had the same retesting. She's from rural Oregon. The retesting issues didn't, for all the same reasons. She's against having midwives having to have them take the exams every 3 years. And there is some confusion, which in a hearing I'm not really able to clear up, because then you start back and forth and then it just gets messy, that there's courses that they have to take. And so there's some confusion that this is new and different than what's currently happening. So I believe we'll be working with OMC to get the word out. And once we get down a little farther, you'll see where building in some time from when you guys, for them actually to become effective. So we can build in some time to get supervisors going and things like that. So you'll see that down in OMC's written comments. The next comment was Julia Bailey. She actually served on the qualification committee with Corinthia. Her recollection was that it was that having midwives take the exams every 3 years was never discussed. It wasn't in those meetings, so I could not tell you. What I can tell you is that all of the qualification committee members were invited to serve on the RAC, and some of them did, some of them didn't, but it was their choice, and we would put them on no matter what. So let's see, and then Israel Johnson. She is a midwife, a newly licensed midwife in Oregon who came from Kentucky. And she said that taking tests doesn't really show competency. She finds it would be more valuable in continuing education. And then she talked about things that were outside of the board's control, like prescription for antibiotics for urinary tract infections, birth control, and things like that. So all that is not in the purview, which I told her that. And then there were several people who just listened. Somebody I left off of here is Lynette. Greg Ramirez, who also served on both of the committees, Andrea Keating, Emilia Allen, Debbie, last name unknown, I don't know. And then Lynette joined in for a few minutes at the end. And then the summary of the written comments, which hopefully you guys received those. The first one is OMC's comments. Overall, they're happy with the new competencies and happy with the exams, both for new applicants and for the renewal. They think that building in like a 90-day grace period to allow people to, so let's say July 1, and then we build it out 90 days. So from then, people have to start having that exam. The exam will be ready to take. So build in some grace period, which we can do. It says we suggest a 3-month grace period following the approval of the proposed rule changes for anyone whose license is due for renewal in these initial 3 months. This would allow adequate time for the process of renewal to be implemented. And I don't think, this is maybe a question, because the way the rule is written, it just says you need to have it in the 3 years, sometime in 3 years, that you wouldn't necessarily have to have this pass at this, No, that's right. So we'll build it out a 90-day grace period. The other thing that they commented on is moving the continuing education from every 2 years to 1 year, and that's basically what HLO does. And I can see their point is that, people might take everything at one time and they only are going to get, points for annually. And so they won't be able to use what they're taking the whole time. Two things can happen. We can go back to 2 years, or you guys could carry forward a certain number of hours from previous renewal year. So if you got, say, 10 hours in 2021 and you only needed 5, you could carry the other 5 to the next renewal. That becomes a little bit dicey, but it's doable, or we can just go back to the 2 years. Totally up to you guys. I think that was, just looking, there are only 2 concerns. Yeah, that was it. So any questions about those? You want to talk about them? No? Okay. Okay, the next one is Tiffany Marin's, which I basically summarized what her verbal comment was and her written. The next 2 are regarding the Emergency Medical Services Program and EMTs and paramedics, which in the rules, they're listed as people who could be proctors. Now, what both of these comments say is that the advanced emergency medical technicians and paramedics do have that skill set in their toolkit. What their law says is that they, what does it say? So they actually can do it. These providers are only allowed to provide practice and exercise their license when providing pre-hospital care.
Well, and they don't suture. That was the other thing that comment said.
Correct. And they aren't listed in the suturing as a provider that is approved to do proctoring for sutures. They're only in the first 2. Where did my rules go? Yeah, so I mean, there's 1, you can just take them out. 2, they have given us some maybe some clarity language. And then the other piece, which I think may have just been an oversight, is number 10 of, what was it? 33226. All right, no. Oh my gosh, I can't find it. 2610. Number 10, it says anybody who proctors can also educate, which that rule is really unnecessary because anybody can be teaching this if they're qualified. They have the competence packet and they're going through it as they're, mentoring someone or on the job training, however you guys do it. So that number 10 is really an unnecessary rule. So that, what was there? So proposed language could be an approved proctor may also provide legend drugs and devices, education listed in. Yeah, I mean, so the couple options, you can just take them out and we can do some further research to go back to the drawing board with them. I don't know how many will even be interested. The other one is look at some of the language that the Oregon Medical Board provided and HERCI Emergency Medical Services Program. Really up to you guys how you want to move forward with those 2. But this was new information that I thought was good information that I didn't know. So that is all the comments. So any questions about all of those? Any conversations that you want to have about those? Anything in the rules?
So I do want to talk about it quite a bit.
Perfect.
And you know this, Sammy, because I emailed you.
Yes.
So I don't know when the proposed proctor qualifications list came out exactly. I didn't review it until more recently, after reading some of these comments and trying to understand what was happening. And I have a pretty huge, I mean, I've always had concerns about the retesting situation. I feel like that creates or demonstrates a bias against midwives because no other provider type has to retest their skills annually, including RNs, when an RN could possibly be working for an eye doctor and not be doing any of those skills, and then move to a hospital setting. They don't have to retest. They are just expected as part of their due diligence as their license type to brush up on those skills. And so I feel like asking midwives to do something different demonstrates a pretty significant bias. I am all for holding midwives to high standards, and I don't know that Oregon does the best job of that. So I really support the idea of having testing at the outset of licensure. But in particular, with the list of potential proctors for this proposal, I think it is largely performative. It says in there that any licensed direct entry midwife or any CPM can be a proctor for someone else. So I could sign off on you and you could sign off on me. CPM from another state could sign off, and CPMs don't necessarily have the same skill set across states because they don't necessarily have the same privileges or licensure. And so my proposal would be simply to eliminate the every 3 year renewal or retesting, essentially. I understand that the reason behind it was to, encourage competency and to try to verify people's competency, especially in rural settings who aren't doing these skills or using these skills very often. And I think that we could potentially implement programs with OMC where there are skills days that midwives could attend in their local community that could help eliminate some of the travel and the organizational burden, that would do a better job of making sure that people are competent in their skills than the proposed every 3 year cycle with any CPM potentially being a proctor.
I can see a lot of valid points that you make, and I feel like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that Tiffany's comments about the impact on rural midwives is definitely something to consider because there are midwives that are in a part of the state where they are literally the only midwife for like a 3 hour radius or more or something. And in order for them to meet this requirement every 3 years, they will have to travel pretty far. I do think we need to be doing a better job with assuring competency at the onset of licensure, that I'm hoping this program will provide that. But yeah, I think that I can definitely see like what you pointed out, Lynette, like about how it allows CPMs from out of state even to be proctors. Like that could be a problematic for sure. Yes. Sammy, you have your hand raised. You can speak.
Yeah, so just a couple things. So the skills exams could be done online virtually, so it doesn't eliminate that opportunity. So if somebody was in rural, Baker, they could have somebody proctor them virtually. So it doesn't preclude that, because we wanted to make sure that rural people, and it's possible now that with all the new technologies since COVID. There was that. There is a list of, hold on page it starts on 42, a list of each state and this basically, can you guys still hear me? Okay. Sometimes I go in and out. This is basically a list of what each state, and so you can see that like Georgia, there's nothing. But in Colorado, the midwives there have all of these. They can do all the service providers. This isn't adopted a rule, but when that rule that says if you are substantially equivalent, but maybe you don't have an Oregon license, but you have one in Colorado, so you would show us that, and then you could become a proctor. So using this list, and we're making sure based on that rule that they are competent in these areas. So I wanted to put that out there, and I think that was it.
I mean, thanks, Sammy. I think I would argue against all those things. I feel like a virtual demonstration of an IV insertion or suturing is not nearly the same as an in-person assessment. There's no way I could say for sure that someone was using proper technique by video. I would not feel confident in that as as a preceptor or a proctor. I mean, that would potentially also be a slippery slope to, well, can I just demonstrate as a student all the skills I need to demonstrate by video for my preceptors? Um, and then there's no way for you to assess or for the HLO to assess that the, CPM in Georgia or the CPM in Colorado is actually competent because the Colorado does not require this retesting. This is only an Oregon thing, right? Washington doesn't require retesting. They require testing at licensure, and that's it. So if the argument is that people in rural areas aren't using these skills frequently enough, this does not solve that problem.
Okay.
Are there other thoughts among the board members?
This is Misha. Yeah, I think there are great points. I think trying to overcome some of these barriers um, of distance is an interesting question. The proctors I think we've had on before who have history of proctoring or educating, I think I recall telling us, the board, that they were doing that and were set up to do that remotely. And so I know that's a little bit different than your opinion, Lynette, and I get that. Um,
Well, it's possible that
I think,
someone would be, but not everyone, right? This list
yeah,
is
and they could
not
decide.
inclusive of
Yeah,
that one person.
yeah, right, exactly. I don't necessarily think the comparison between, I don't think a licensed direct entry midwife is sort of equivalent in their working, necessarily equivalent in their workspace as a nurse as that example. So I think like comparing like many of these of things that we've reviewed, and many of the direct entry midwives are practicing remotely individually and have they don't have oversight from, say, a hospital system or another mechanism to ensure quality and safety. And so I don't think the fact that that isn't required of an RN means that it should also not be required of a direct entry midwife. And I know that practice settings are different, right? Not all direct entry midwives practice remotely, or and they may be in a birth center, whatever. So there's so much variability there. But to me, a lot of um, effort has gone into sort of like evaluating this over the last, sounds like, 5 years, certainly before my time on the board as well. And so I trust a lot of that work, and it's hard for me to say, well, we should pull the plug on that plan at the nth hour, just now that now that we're in this situation. So I tend to sort of think that I think there are adjustments based on some of this feedback we could consider, but I still am sort of in agreement with our prior rules proposal.
I appreciate that, Misha. I continue to disagree. RNs practice in a variety of settings as well and aren't always supervised, depending on what they're doing. And if RN isn't a good comparison, let's pick something that is a better comparison, or could be a better comparison. For example, a certified nurse midwife does not always work in a hospital setting. There are certified nurse midwives that practice in the community setting, and they wouldn't be required to meet this criteria. I'm not saying scrap the whole thing. I absolutely think that we should implement the testing at onset of licensure. I'm only advocating for not having the renewal testing every 3 years. And I recognize we could modify the preceptor list, but I think that the challenge with that is that it does propose even greater challenge for the rural midwife who doesn't potentially have access to all the different types of proctors.
I wonder about the idea, and I don't know if we're too late in the game to even be talking about, changes to all of this in a, I don't know. I don't know how I feel like it's already been such a long work in progress. But I just had the idea of what about, and maybe this is crazy, the idea of it being based on if you do under this many births, then you have to do testing every 3 years, retesting, just because, the chances of you having done an IV, if you're only doing 5 births a year or something like that, is probably pretty small, to kind of like not as a means of like punishment for not doing a lot of births, but more as a means of an avenue of continuing to keep those skills kind of honed so that you're probably not using them much. I mean, I can think back to when I had a really small practice many years ago, and I don't think that I felt as competent as I do now, where I'm doing a higher volume and actually using those skills pretty often. So it could be, I don't know, that's one idea of, I think that, um, there's a range of skill, and it's not, I can see your point, Lynette, of it feeling like, how come are we going to really be the only profession in our state that's required to retest after you're licensed? It can feel a little bit like, discriminatory, I guess. But at the same time, I have seen with my own eyes situations where the skills are not really that great because of lack of practice and lack of experience. And so I always think back to like NRP. I know it's not the same thing as we're saying here, but I'm really glad we're required to go do NRP every 2 years, because those are skills that we really need to keep, fresh on. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not doing full resuscitations very often either. So I think practicing those things is helpful. And I think I see it like more as practice when I think about the retesting every 3 years. But I can also see how I think you're pretty busy, Lynette. And like when you take it from that perspective of like, well, of course, like we know these skills. We're licensed midwives. I think there's a range of what our experiences are.
No, I totally agree with that. And Sammy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is precedent for like if you do under a certain number of births, you have more CE requirements currently. Is that
Correct. That's in the law.
yeah? So that
Yeah, you
there is
could.
precedent for that. And I would be more open to that conversation, but I still think that we'd have to significantly change the requirements for preceptors then, because I still think that we're not really being able to test what we want to test by having the preceptors in place. I mean, I know for me, I would probably myself become a preceptor and then be able to sign off all the midwives in my practice, which is fine because we're busy and that's easy. But I still think that if we keep it as it is, the midwife in rural Eastern Oregon who has no one within 3 hours is gonna call somebody up, who may or may not be someone who's really qualified for that position, based on the requirements that are currently there, right? Like there's no way for us to say that the midwife in Colorado who happens to be her friend is genuinely able to assess her skill level.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder about the idea of having a more thorough vetting process for the proctors then, so that we know that the proctors, and not to have, I mean, it'd be great to have a huge list of proctors also. Like I wouldn't want to dissuade people from becoming a proctor, but I do think that you're right. Like we need to have not just like, oh, they're in a state with that scope, like that's great, but there also is the amount of the actual skill, like making sure the person that is saying they want to be a proctor actually has the skills that they're going to be supervising and signing off on, because I could see that maybe not working out very well. So maybe I don't know what besides I don't remember what the vetting process was for proctors, but again, like I think it'd be good to have a lot of proctors in our state so that we can have it more easily accessible for people. But I do think it'd be good to have more, making sure they're very competent in themselves that they're going to be proctors.
So to be a proctor, they have to submit application, submit proof of holding their credential, whatever it is, they're an LDM or they're a CPM or they're a registered nurse or doctor, show us those credentials with no current or pending disciplinary action. That's what the requirement is. So they apply, tell us how they, what, basically what, what's the word, credential that they're going to be offering the service under, and if they have that credential, then we let them be a proctor.
I get that concern, Lynette, about wanting to make sure that those individuals, it doesn't sound like there's a mechanism right now that's in place to ensure adequate skill or training or whatever to do that.
Do you mean like proctor, the proctor?
Right, exactly.
Is that what we're talking about?
We're talking about some program where a proctor gets certified to proctor. Yeah.
Okay.
But, or another, I guess, another way of verifying that. So,
you could require licensing for a certain number of years.
It's just that none of that's going to fix the problem, right? Because there's rural midwives who've been licensed for 10 years and done 50 births, which barely qualifies them to be a preceptor, other than that they've been licensed for a long time. So the problem, I think this is a really tricky challenge, and I personally don't think it's worth trying to sort out the details of it, to try to make it work.
So I guess I don't know what you're recommending.
We drop the retesting requirement every 3 years and that we continue the rest of it as is. Well, not completely as is. I would move to continue every 2-year requirement for CEs, and remove the EMTs from the list.
But leave the list alone, except for the EMTs.
I mean,
it still doesn't really solve the proctoring thing, right? They still got to test.
Well, at least there's a written test that's being added that is designed by the team, by the committee, right, Sammy?
Say that again.
There's a written test in addition to the proctored skills evaluation. So
yeah, they could take that. There is this one other option that you could do that I hadn't mentioned. If you have been licensed long enough, since 2002, then you know that if you were licensed, and when Legend Drugs and Devices came into effect, everybody who was licensed had to get that training. So it was like a rush to get it so that everybody had it. You could do that same thing here, where you have all the licensed midwives prior to their nests. You could say a time must pass these exams just one time before their next renewal, or before 2028. You put a date on it. So you could do that if you wanted to make sure that all the currently licensed midwives are competent in these areas, and it would just be the one-time deal. So there is that option too.
And then all new applicants would also have to pass it.
They would be doing it no matter what. So there is that. If you wanted to have all the current licensed midwives pass at one time, just like the new applicants, there's that option too.
Christina and Lori, do you guys have any thoughts? And Rebecca, I don't know. I can't remember if you've already shared or not, Rebecca.
No, and I worked my practice was in an extremely rural area on the Canadian border. So I totally empathize with the difficulties of trying to get places, and if I even find somebody when I needed to be gone to cover my practice and the logistics of all of that. However, I think it is for people that aren't doing many births, I do think it is a good idea to have them, have to get retrained or demonstrate that they still remember what these skills are, because if you're not doing many births, there are things you just don't do very often. So a little bit different than an urban practice.
I guess my question is, one, how are we actually going to do that? And two, why does that need to be legislated instead of, an expectation of the community or something that OMC works on? In other states, It's not something that's legislated. It's something that the community works on together.
Well,
Why can't
I would say
it
that
is-
this is Lennon. Oh, sorry. Are you done? I don't want to interrupt you. Okay. I would just say that this is just my own experience. Like I think that it can be difficult to get people to participate sometimes. It tends to be the same groups of people that are participating in things, and the same people that never participate. And so, yeah, I know what you're saying, because I think ideally you're right. I think it would be nice for it to be something that is just part of our community expectation of us, doing these things. And like, in our area, we'll have a skills and drills day, like for the community midwives, somebody will host and we'll just practice together. And that's great. But I know that that's not happening everywhere. And OMC, I know I've seen them like trying to get people to like come to these kind of continuing education events, and they don't always, not everybody shows up, and because partly we're busy and we might have a birth or we just have a busy life, but there's also people that just choose not to participate.
Well, I'm a little bit with you, Lennon, on wording around, if you do less than a certain number of births per year, because those of us with busier practices are regularly practicing this skill set.
Did you have anything to add, Christine? Any idea, any thoughts?
I mean, I agree with what Misha said is that like nurses and providers in a hospital, like they have other people who are always kind of observing their skills. And so like we're kind of always continuous, like if anybody ever has a concern about somebody's skills, like it's brought up to like their supervisor. So I feel like nurses have to continually prove that they can do like IVs and do a triage. And I mean, it's not like every day, but you know what I mean? Like they periodically through their job, they kind of get their skills are confirmed that they can still like do IVs or do catheter, or things like that. So, I mean, it's a little bit different because it isn't legislated and it's not part of the licensing. But when people are practicing by themselves and we're just relying on them saying that they have the skills and are competent, I think I kind of see it a little bit more like the NRP certification of just renewing that.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a national organization that provides it like NRP or CPR, for example. But I still feel pretty strongly that, while many RNs and CNMs and other provider types practice in a hospital setting and do have that constant supervision, many do not. There are definitely RNs and CNMs and even MDs and PAs and all different kinds of licensed provider types that do not practice in a group setting and therefore are not supervised, and it is not required for their licensure. I think this is hard for sure because I think that, like I said, I do want to hold midwives to a higher standard. I don't like that we have, you know, consistent complaints about particular midwives who don't necessarily seem to have skills, or, we have midwives practicing who don't have the skills that would, um, be required even at the onset. I mean, I talked to someone yesterday who was hiring a new midwife who'd been practicing for a while in another state and had never sutured, not even as part of their original education and schooling. So I know do understand and want to support the idea of having, more accountability for midwives, especially in Oregon. I just think that this maybe isn't the way to go about it. I think that in addition, I would be more inclined to support a like if you don't meet a certain number of births per year plan, but I think that's still going to unfairly disadvantage rural midwives because I think the rural midwives are often the ones that aren't doing very many births. Um, And if we continue to leave the proctor requirements as it is, we have no way of really verifying that that really happened. It just seems like unfair administrative burden on the HLO and unfair burden on midwives to not really gain any additional confidence that someone can indeed appropriately place an IV, for example.
Can you clarify what you mean by the last statements? Like the people on the list can't verify that they can, like, for
Right.
example,
So
suture?
if I am a rural midwife who does less than 5 births a year, and I call my friend in Colorado and say, "Hey, can you apply to be a proctor?" And she says, "Sure." And she actually doesn't know how to get start an IV, but she signs off on it that she does.
Oh, so
Uh,
liars.
yeah, I mean that happens
Okay.
all the time.
I was just making sure that's what I was hearing.
Well, I mean,
I mean, a lot of things in licensing are trust-based. That's
yeah.
just, I mean, part of the game. Um, but yeah, you're right that's true. That could happen.
Or maybe she's equally the midwife in Colorado is equally like they've learned it before. They should know it, but like they don't practice it very much either. And so they miss the fact that I mean I'm remembering when I tested as a student, I went to Bastyr, which is one of the most difficult universities for midwifery. And I failed that suturing test 2 or 3 times because my watch accidentally hit the paper. Um, and we had to make sure that, we ended up having to take off my watch to make sure that I was maintaining a sterile field. Um, and I don't think that, you know, while that may be excessive, I think that just because someone thinks they know how to properly assess someone at a skill doesn't mean that they actually do. Um,
How did the teachers at your school become qualified to teach? I mean, what was the
Well,
requirement?
they had to have an equal or higher degree, and they had to demonstrate that they knew how to do it to the school. Uh,
Okay, so the
they were
proctor
they
somehow.
were teachers at a university. Um,
I guess did they use some kind of tool mechanism to show the school that they could do it? Was it license based? How long they were licensed? I guess I'd have to call and
I
figure that
don't
out.
know because it's not something that I've done. Um,
Oh, I guess I could ask the school we had here. I could ask Holly or someone who worked there. Mm. So it's really up to the board how to proceed.
Absolutely, and I'm only one vote on the board, and I recognize that. And I'll support whatever the majority um, decides.
This is Misha. Can I ask, I guess like the lesser part, I think, of the crux of the disagreement is like the 1 or 2 year continuing education question that OMC made a recommendation on. We were going to change from 2 years and 35 hours to 1 year and 18 hours, I think.
Yeah.
But I just don't remember the background of that.
Oh, because all of HLO's programs are every year that they renew, they attest to taking their CEs. And it was just aligning the midwives with that. It's not that big of a deal if we go back to 2 years. Or like I said, we can say that if you had extra hours in this year, you can carry them forward to the next. So either one would work. We've used either model before.
Okay. I
And
took OMC's at least explanation of saying maybe if the CE opportunities weren't sort of necessarily so frequent that every year they're available, that the 2 year window made sense. So I was fine with that anyway.
Well, on that one, the carryover would probably be important because some of us take, 4, 5, 6 days away every other year and get a large number of CEUs versus little bits throughout the year. And so being able to carry them over. And that's what I usually do is I just like take a week off and go and redo my NRP and suturing, all those things all at once and get more than 18 CEUs in one setting. So if they couldn't carry over, that would be challenging.
right, and some workshops are, a significant amount, and it would kind of be sad to not get to use them all. And then my question also kind of related to the CEUs because I cannot remember. I know currently we have the CEU cycle every 2 years, and then I think 5 of those have to be Legend Drugs and Device specific. Is that right? And if I'm remembering that correctly, will that requirement be not happening anymore since we now, if we have this other Legend Drugs and Devices program going on? Because I know way back we used to have to actually do a renewal Legend Drugs and Device class a long time ago, and then it kind of there wasn't enough people to teach, and so it kind of got, I think, replaced by the online CEU requirement. And so I was wondering, does that the Legend Drug Devices specific CEUs that we're currently having to do, is that going to continue to stay the same, or will it not be necessarily required?
It would be in addition to requirements, one of the 18 hours listed, 1 hour needs to
One.
be
Okay.
in Ledger Drugs and Devices and Pharmacology covering drugs listed in, and it gives those rule numbers. So it's an
Okay.
hour in pharmacology,
Oh, okay.
but you could change that back to an hour in any one of the areas. The idea here is that you every 3 years you're going to be doing the three, and then advanced shock. It doesn't really change. So, but again,
Yeah.
the notice was put out and it's pretty broad, so these things I can change them back. Any whatever you guys want to do. It might be too much at one time because it's a lot of
Yeah.
changes.
I'm fine with it being a yearly thing if we have some that can carry over.
Okay.
That's I mean, in some ways it makes it easier because there's always those times when I'm like, is this the year I got to turn in my
Yeah.
CEUs? And so
Right.
it'd be nice to keep it just like simple, but also I would want to have the carryover available if possible. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I like the annual, but definitely need the carryover option.
Um, what is a good number? I mean, I can look and see what we have a couple other boards that do this. See what I think their number of hours to carry forward is 10, but you could just say the other half, which is 18. That probably makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it wouldn't be yeah, I think whatever. I guess
Okay.
whatever other people think. My thought was it's not a terrible idea to have to do some CEU every year, even if it's like a 2 hour or 5 hours. But maybe we should just allow I don't know if we can allow all of them to be carried over. I don't know what you guys think.
I don't have strong feelings. I mean, if we were okay with doing 35 hours in 2 years, then if you want to do all 35 in a year and call it for 2 years, that's okay with me.
I like that idea too. I mean, we're saying
Yeah.
MRP is every 2 years, so to be able to have all of our other continuation carryover as well makes sense.
So we're going to stay with the year. Every year, you're going to attest to having taken 18 hours in continuing education, and you can carry forward 18 hours to the next year. So essentially, you might not be getting CEUs in the next year, just kind of could get confusing. And then what do you want to do? You have to do some amount of hour. It doesn't matter if it's annually or biannually, something in Legend Drugs and Devices. Like that's the only statute that says you must have some CEs in Legend Drugs and Devices. Do you want to go with the 1 year in pharmacology? Go back to the 5 years and
Five
have the
hours.
whole yeah, 5 hours. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think I like the 1 hour proposed in pharmacology. I don't think that's reasonable. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, especially since it does change. Like, TXA came into our formulary, so that having that ongoing
Hmm.
frequent continuing education in that area as new drugs come into our formulary.
I think it's a little bit trickier to get those CEs. They're not typically meek CEs, and they're not typically like Hive doesn't have anything. I guess they have the initial. So are you just taking the same class over and over again? Um, the there is a few other ways to get them, but it's expensive. Um, so and I guess that would be my other question is 1 hour of CE per every 2 years or every year largely performative, or is it really helping to keep people's skills up?
Well, you said that it's a requirement, Sammy, to have at least 1 hour.
Yeah, something.
Of the legend, drugs, and device topics, it feels like pharmacology is probably the most
It was the
simple
one that
thing to do
changed
online. Yeah,
most in the competencies.
right. But I agree with Lynette, like thinking about the logistics of that 1 hour a year, like, yeah, every once in a while OMC might have an update and they'll teach a class on a new drug, that maybe got added to our formulary, but like there's not a whole lot out there once you
Yeah, I
do.
mean,
Yeah.
because I just did it for Washington because we can get prescriptive authority, so I'm doing that there. And so I have done a lot of digging into this recently. And so you can get some by subscribing to Up to Date, and you can get some by subscribing to Stat Pearls. And you can do 1 hour at a time, but it's like $300. Um, per 6 months, like each time you wouldn't be able to keep that subscription for multiple years. So it's very expensive. But the bulk of the medications in our formulary um, are the same, right? So like if we had something new, like we added TXA, then OMC did a class on it. And then,
Mhm.
and because I think there's always, and I actually might even say that you can use it if you're trained in it kind of thing, but, and then you couldn't use it if you weren't. Um, but I think that, I mean, I love the idea. I just think that logistically it's hard to come by.
Well, what do you think we would do for that 1 hour if we have to have something? What would you say would be make
I would
most?
say buy one of those subscription services because that's a great way to get 1 hour or more.
But like stay in
So-
the like, but I mean like topic. Like, do you think it should be on the pharmacology of
Well,
like,
I mean, no, I don't think that the pharmacology of Pitocin every year is particularly helpful, or rotating between Pitocin, Metrogen, misoprostol, and TXA so that you cover them all in the course of 5 years over and over again.
yeah,
Like, I just don't think that's particularly helpful. Um,
right? And Sammy, you said it has to be 1 hour of legend, drugs, and devices topics
no, it
every
has to
year.
be 1 hour pharmacology.
Oh, pharmacology.
So if we wanted to broaden it and say 1 hour that includes, any of the legend drugs and devices, then technically NRP or something like that would count because a device is an LMA.
Right. Okay. Well, are we able to broaden it then? Did we just lose Sammy? I don't see her.
Yeah, I agree with broadening it.
Like, can it be 1 hour?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I had to leave.
Oh,
So
okay.
what the law says, I'm going to read it to you, is that the board shall require a midwife nope, that's not right. The board shall prescribe requirements for license renewal, including but not limited to continuing education that must include training in the use of legend drugs and devices. That's all the law says. So you have to make sure that
Huh.
requirement is satisfied. And in a 1 hour, in my mind, what's in one of the topics, I mean, really,
Okay.
because legend drugs, so you could.
So do we have to even specify what topic? Can we just have 1 hour yearly of
I
legend,
guess
drugs, and devices?
maybe we could just do 1 hour in the use of legend drugs and devices and just leave it at what the law says. And then you
Yeah.
guys decide what that is.
I feel like that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense.
Okay. I think we can do that. And then that gives you some flexibility. Okay. So we are going to stay at 1 year. We're going to carry forward 18 hours. We're going to change up number 2 to just be more broad, that 1 hour has to be in legend drugs and devices, and the midwife can choose what that is. Maybe it's part of something else, but as long as they can prove it, then they're good to go. There has been a question of requiring, if a midwife has done less than 10 births, have them do the skills and written exam. That was kind of talked about, but not really landed on. I'm actually working backwards the rule now.
I mean, I would say the requiring the written exam for less than 10 births a year, personally.
Like every 3 years.
And I don't think the written exam is the challenge. I think that I'm less opposed to that as I am opposed to the proposal for the proctored skills portion.
What if you did baby steps and required every 3 years to take the written? And then once the proctor, once the program got more up and running, then bring currently licensed midwives into the fold every 3 years. You could do that.
Well, I think that again, it doesn't totally meet the intention, right? The intention is to make sure that the midwife that isn't doing very many births actually knows how to start an IV or has, is practiced enough to be functional at it. And so the written exam doesn't necessarily do that. But perhaps it does verify that they're actually taking the CEs, right? That they're staying up to date on
It's
that.
true that you're right, that if we're just looking for competency and skills, maybe they only have to take the skills exam and not the written, because the written isn't going to change much. It's only a certain number of questions that you're going to end up taking every, at some point you're going to get duplicated questions.
Sure, but and the written exam I feel like is less burdensome though and more objective. Because there's a pass fail, right? It's
Right,
not like it's the HLO administering it. So it's not up to somebody that
right.
isn't qualified, not potentially.
Well, I see your point, Lynette, on that we're kind of going on the honor system, but it still is something versus nothing. And have,
Totally.
and in good faith that they are going to be honest and that these skills were assessed.
I mean,
Yep, I understand and agree with that. Again, I don't think it should be legislated. I think we should just maybe work with OMC to try to provide more skill opportunities and reach out to people who we know. The HLO should know who doesn't do 10 births a month because they already have an extra requirement for CEs. And so
correct.
we could reach out to those people specifically um, and encourage them to come to classes. But if, Oregon has set a precedent for legislating all of these things, and if that's a precedent that Oregon wants to continue, then that's fine. But again, I would tighten up that proctoring list and requirement and verification so that we're actually testing what we want to test. Otherwise, it just feels performative and burdensome on all sides.
So what is the next step after this discussion?
Well, you guys decide to, if you want to make changes, we can do that. If you want to clarify some of the ones I don't know about yet, then you can adopt them permanent.
Like, does
And
it go back to the public if we change things? Does it go back to the public again or anything? No.
only if you like substantially change it, but at this point, I don't see a substantial change. Of course, it's possible that I would, run it up the chain to make sure, but I made the notice pretty broad just in case.
Okay, I was just curious.
Okay, so I'm going to start from the top. And so well, the first question is that how you guys want to move forward is if somebody's done less than 10 births, they would have to take the skills exam every 3 years. Or is that?
Less than 10 bursts a year or per 3-year period.
I don't
Like what
know.
happens if they have 1 year where they have, let's say, 9 bursts and the other 2 years they have 14? Does that,
The one with 9, they have to take the test.
right? But it's every 3 years. So like if there's 1 year where they had less than 10, it would trigger their need to take the test.
They just have to take it the one time and then it'll be good for 3 years. I guess if they did 10 bursts the next year, well, they're good because they've got an active 3-year. I don't know about that.
Because we have a yearly license. So
Right. Is
Yeah, I know.
is it an average of 10 bursts per year over 3 years?
right. That might be good. That might be good wording.
Yeah. So that if you had that scenario, you wouldn't have to take it because 9, 14, and 14 would average out to more than 10.
Yeah, I can't really write a rule like that.
So in that case, it would be like less than 30 in 3 years. That would be the
Yeah.
language.
Because the way we did it is that you have to have I guess what we would do is take away, obviously, so it would go away as the 3 years.
What's the wording for the CE requirement, Sammy? I think it says per year, right? If you do less than 5 births per year, you have 5 extra CEs you have to do.
The current, yeah.
Yeah, in accordance with who
While it may be
attended
confusing, maybe we should copy that wording anyway, so that we're
fewer than 5 bursts during the previous renewal year must complete an additional 10 hours. So just say must complete the skills assessment exam, period.
Yeah, just keep it.
So if it's every year, they have to do it every year. And the 3-year thing goes away.
No, it's still the previous year. Like it's the year most recent to their
Like the year before they require the 3-year period, the year before that.
Yeah, but let's say the 3-year period goes away because you guys don't have to do that anymore. Currently licensed midwives aren't, unless this triggers so 3 years is not what I'm hearing is that if they renew in 2022, but in 2021 they only had 9 births, that triggers the exam. If in 2023 they renew and in 2022 they only had 8 births, that triggers the exam. I mean, take the 3 years away, and then if every year they only do they do less than 10 births, it triggers the exam. Because I don't know how you would monitor that. It doesn't make any sense that you would have this 3-year period in a renewal piece only if you did a less number of births. Like I don't know how that.
Well, we already do that as it relates to CEs. So
right, but these CEs it doesn't say additional in these 10 hours of continuing education are good for 3 years. It doesn't say that. If the next year in 2023
it's
you
renewing, it's currently renewing every 2 years. The CE requirement is every 2 years.
Right, you still have to, we have to know on your renewal if the previous year was, if you only did 9 or 10, under whatever it is, 5. Yeah. You have to report that on your renewal every 2 years.
So it would be the same, that we would have someone report that they did the less than 10 and they know that they need to do the retesting.
So, okay. So I would just say,
I would literally copy the language.
No, I understand that. So,
and I recognize it's confusing, but
well, the 3-year piece is the confusing part. So annually,
what's the difference between the 3-year piece and the 2-year piece? How is it not the same confusing?
Well, because the 2-year piece is your renewal. The 3-year is an actual date on an exam.
But we renew every year though. But what I was thinking was like, what's the difference if we were saying everybody had to take this every 3 years? What would be the system in place to trigger that in the system of
it
saying
would just, it's you guys have to keep it active for 3 years.
You'd have to attest to
and
it.
attest to it.
I
we have
see.
to see the document.
Otherwise, I see. Okay. And this one, we want to like the system to trigger and say, oh, you need to do this test because you had less than this amount.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I don't think does the system do that for, it does that for CEs is what you're saying, Sammy? That if you Because do you enter? I don't remember. I know I just renewed, but I seriously don't remember. I don't think
I
I
believe you
put
just
how many
signed.
births I did in the last year in my
There's a,
renewal application.
there's a little signature that says, "Did you do less than 5?" and you check the box.
Okay.
Mhm.
So maybe you could put something similar to that for, did you do less than 10 and you check the box? Did you do less than 5 and you check the box?
And then on their next renewal, we have to see in their record that they passed this test.
Well, only if you audit, yes. I mean,
Well,
I don't
no, we'd
know
have
if
the
we're planning to
proctor
audit this, but
send in. Okay.
because I mean, just like everything else, you're not
Okay.
usually looking at it unless you're auditing, right? Someone attests
Well,
to
the way
their,
these are written is that the proctor will automatically send in the transcript that you passed, and it would go in your record. So we would be looking for that, but we could take that out as well.
Sammy, Ann has her hand up,
Yes.
or not Ann, Tina has
I
her hand.
can't see anybody's hands because the way my screen is, and I can't change the way my participants are viewed.
Okay, but Tina has her hand up.
Okay.
Hi, this is Tina. Yeah, we need to make this as easy as possible for staff because we're not going to be able to keep track. That would be keeping track for 2 years. So just keep that in mind for if the responsibility is just going to be solely on the midwife to keep track of that and take the exam when they're supposed to.
I'm curious what the intention was. Does anyone know? Was the intention that HLA or HLO um, tracked it every year for every renewal? Or was the intention that it was going to be an attestation again?
They would attest, but it does say that the proctor must send us the transcript showing that that they did it, that they passed on a certain date, and then there's a 3-year period. So if we would actually have the transcript.
Would that be kept track of at HLO? Like, you receive these sheets from the proctors and you like match them with the midwife and be like, okay, this person's got it. Or is it just kind of like if somebody gets audited?
If somebody was audited, we'd probably look at, I don't really know that process. We would probably ask the midwife for it, but obviously if you continue this way, then we would also have it in the system. So it would come out twice again, I think.
What if we just changed that portion of the rule to not require the proctor to send it in, and then we just made it like all the other things where the midwife has to keep track of it, and if they're audited, they have to be able to produce it.
Okay.
That makes it less burdensome on everyone, right? So the proctor doesn't have to have the responsibility of sending it, and the HLO doesn't have to have the responsibility of receiving it and filing it or whatever. And then the midwife just has to keep it and be able to produce it on, and we could even add that, I guess, in there if it doesn't already say that for the other things that the midwife will just have to be able to produce it on audit.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Oh my gosh.
This is Misha. I, I've just, just in terms of my opinion, I think we're talking about doing away with the 3-year retesting with the skills exam, right? We're not talking about that. Okay,
Nope.
sorry.
They're talking about having it be for only people who do less than 10 births a year, or in
right.
the year immediately preceding their whenever their retesting is due. Because it's an every 3-year cycle.
Right.
So year 1, they may have done 9 births. Year 2, they may have done 14. Year 3, they may have done 9 or 14. If they do 14, they don't have to take it again. If they do 9, they do.
But that's a change compared to how we've proposed the rules so far, which is that all licensed midwives would do it every 3 years, right? We're trying to just be choosy about who we think needs it more.
Right. We're trying to eliminate some of the burden on everyone.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I'm still not sort of the opinion that will kind of do what we're seeking to do. These are, and I know the IV, we keep going back to just like placing an IV, and I get that that's one of the skills that's tested, and treatment of shock is another one, which, I know doesn't, like, these are thankfully rare situations among births, right? That most births go relatively well and everyone is healthy and does well. And so I think what we're trying to do is, and I think Lennon brought this up before too, is just sort of say like, hey, this is a scenario or a mechanism where we can help practicing midwives make sure that they are comfortable with these rare things that don't come around all that often. So I guess I'm still of the opinion, and again, I trust all of your expertise, but I guess I'm still of the opinion that I'm not quite feeling like this should only apply to midwives who are doing less than 10 deliveries a year. That I sort of favor our prior proposal.
The theory is that midwives doing more than 10 births a year are seeing these things in practice and therefore practicing them on a more regular basis.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. But some of these, shock doesn't happen once out of every 10 births necessarily. So maybe there's a different number in there or something like that. But many of the things that we've seen so far make me worry about I think these are about the safety of, pregnant people in Oregon. And so I know there's a burden on midwives, and I certainly want to consider that, but I think this doesn't seem an undue burden. And it's not a perfect system, I get, and people can lie and cheat and kind of work around the system with their proctors, but the intent of this is to sort of set up a safety and check mechanism and a support mechanism, I think, for the licensees. So that's just my opinion. I just want to put that out there before we get down the rabbit hole too much. And it's hard to organize this conversation.
Lennon, what do you think about a straw poll for who would support or the every 3 years for everyone versus the every 3 years for people who do less than a certain number of births?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's see, how many of, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us here today? Okay.
Just reached out to me
Yeah.
again. That's all.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
all
one-
here.
No worries.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
The shock piece is also covered in our, medical provider CPR. So we are already covering that every 2 years with renewing our CPR training. So it's really more like the suturing, medications, IVs, which
IVs.
those practicing, more than 10 births are absolutely doing on a regular basis. The shock piece is so important for everybody to be covering all the time, but that is being covered on a regular basis in continuing education for midwives.
Yeah, and sort of, I guess I meant more like, yes, treatment of postpartum hemorrhage. I get recognition of shock and sort of severe, circumstances where they're requiring CPR, but more specific to obstetrics.
Well, then we definitely need to change the list of proctors because not everyone that's on the list is going to be familiar with obstetrics.
I mean, I do think that if we do end up voting and passing the every 3 years for everybody, I do think we need to have a more refined way of having proctors, like the proctoring the proctor, like a vetting process, because otherwise we will end up with just, people not being necessarily truthful. Like, let's be honest, this is what happens. And the whole point of it, if the point of it is to not just put people through jumping through the hoops, but to like actually improve their skills, then you want the proctor to actually be skilled themselves. And I think that's really important. And yeah, I think that I know the online is never ideal for like actual physical skills that we're doing. But I also know that many years ago when they first started, I took like the suturing class from Hive, and they do like a hybrid online live version, and it's really great actually. Like they do a really good job of watching suturing happen in real life. I mean, not real life, but practice real life, and giving really good feedback and really seeing and improving skills. So I know that it's possible to do, but it's really important to have somebody who knows what they're doing to proctor whatever it is. And I think that's a big concern that I have with the proctor process. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we had some feedback that pointed out the fact that like an everyday EMS person can't really even proctor because they don't even have that in their scope to be using those medications and doing those skills. So,
Well, if we're going to the online piece, then wouldn't just including it as being required in our continuing education, like how we took, the best course and that covers all of these things, that it just being a requirement for part of your continuing education in that versus a
it's
whole
it's
separate piece.
it already has been though. Like that is what we're currently doing. And I think not like we did that best in-person workshop where you really got hands-on practice
Right.
and stuff, but I know there's years that I've just found some class online to meet those requirements, and so it's not always that good in-person practice that happens.
But if we're doing online proctoring exams anyway, we're still not getting that good in-person practice. So
True.
it doesn't
True.
change that.
True.
So then what's the intent?
This is a completely different idea than has been presented. So totally shut me down if you want to, but I know one of the things again in Washington that we do is that we get a discount on our malpractice, which a lot of people don't. It's not state-sponsored malpractice, but it could be a discount on your renewal if you do a best class to encourage more people to take it, or an also class to encourage people to do it. So that could be another way to, offer it and encourage it. I don't know, just another, I mean, maybe we do that in addition to something, or maybe we do that instead of, I don't know. But I totally agree with Lori. Again, if we're doing all this stuff online, it's not the same thing. And I feel like that with, Misha was talking specifically about shock. Maybe that's just because what are we just gonna show people how we're gonna lift someone's legs if they're in shock? I'm not sure what skill exactly we're looking for. Actually, I guess I should look at the checklist because I think there's a
Well,
checklist that tells us
something
that.
like bimanual compression, practicing that's where the best shines, is that we have models that we're physically practicing blood estimation. We're practicing all these
Yeah.
things on. You're not going to get that online or through a proctored exam. So I love that idea. I mean, that is scrapping what we've done here kind of, but that giving a discount to encourage those midwives who are saying that the cost is burdensome to participate in a really amazing hands-on skills continuing education. That would serve our purpose far more.
And then also have the written exam. Like I'm totally fine with doing the written exam annually. I agree it'll get repetitive, but that's whatever. I don't feel like that's as much of a burden on people. It can be automated and easy. I do understand there was one commenter who talked about, written tests not necessarily being good assessments of people's skill level. So
Right. Sammy, I think, did you have your hand up a little bit ago, or did you have something you needed to say?
Yeah, but it's fine.
Oh, moved
My
on. Okay.
computer's going to restart, but it's not for
Oh.
another hour.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know why it's going to restart. It's kind of scary.
Right. So we've kind of talked about a bunch of different things then.
Yep.
Like continuing to keep it as it was proposed every 3 years for everybody. Some people liked the idea of it being for those doing less than 10 births the year previous. And then the idea of like the discount. I don't know how that would be implemented, but it's not a terrible idea. It's
It's
like
not, but you guys are $400,000 in the hole, so
right.
a discount seems unlikely.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Could it be written that a course such as BEST or one of those very, involved hands-on that really are definitely a better way of getting this knowledge than through a proctored exam could take the place of a proctored exam if you had in-person participation in a workshop like that?
Oh,
Yeah, you could
Because
do that.
hands down, that's going to fulfill our purpose here far more than just
oh yeah.
your friend in Colorado proctoring you doing this stuff. Going to an intensive hands-on workshop like BEST is going to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish here far better.
Do you have a list of those classes?
I mean, the BEST
Like
is the one
how would
that stands
HLO
out
know?
for sure.
Yeah, we could come up with a list. I think there's
Yeah,
not very
the
many.
way we're going down this road with proctor to proctor and having these lists, you might want to. It sounds like there'll need to be at least probably some kind of committee if you want to develop this, who can proctor, and then now allowing for somebody not proctored if they take certain courses.
Well, I imagine the person that teaches the class, and I have not taken one of these classes yet, I'm going to do it this year, would be someone that could sign off the proctoring, right? So if someone came to Oregon to do a BEST class or an also class, whoever the organizer was, like say it's OMC, or I mean, I could do it. I'm doing it in Washington this year. Then we ask the person teaching the class to become a proctor and fill
Oh,
out the
sure.
application. And then they just sign it off that way.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know all those courses, but I'll just say I know also has an instructor course, so you can become a
Yeah.
certified instructor,
Yeah.
and there's an avenue to do that.
Yeah. But Sammy, I don't want to like derail completely, but I do just want to go back to that. I have brought up the fact that we're $400,000 in debt and been told not to worry about it. So it feels hard to be told not to worry about it in one instance and then be told that we can't incentivize midwives to learn more and practice more skills because it's going to cause us to be more in debt.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to whoever told you that. What I can speak to are facts that you are $400,000 in the hole, and it wouldn't it wouldn't be fiscally responsible to allow for a discount. I mean,
Well,
you could, but I don't know why you would do that. Why the board would want it,
to improve
nor
public safety. That's why the board would do it.
okay.
Um,
How is making a discount improving public safety again?
encouraging people to take this class that's going to save lives.
So you want to provide a discount if a person takes a certain class,
Yes. I'm just
and you're going to
proposing.
come up with this list of classes.
Yes, there's only like 2 or 3 of them. It's not a huge list.
Or it
Okay.
could just take I'm
I mean,
okay
it would
because
be-
I worry about the board's budget also
It would
in
be
my head.
better if you came up with a list of what is required of the course, then it's more fair. Like, so if you say this, X, Y, Z, all these things are required to make a course approved. Does
Sure.
that make sense? So
Yeah.
if you come up with that list
Sure.
of what those things are.
But I don't think we need to go down that path too far. Just it's a whole nother topic that I would potentially be interested in bringing up at some time, but my tenure is limited because we did used to pay a lot less for our licensure, and now we pay a lot more.
I mean, I think you just have to go further back. I used to pay $2,400 a year in Oregon
Correct.
for my license. So
Yeah.
I think of it still as not too bad because I'm
Yep.
comparing it to a long time ago.
Yeah. But anyway, not to
Yeah.
derail. Let's
Yeah.
not go that way.
Well, do we want to do a straw man count like you'd suggested, Lynette? Or
I'm open to that. I think it's just a little hard to clarify the options. You
right?
tried, but go ahead and try to summarize and see which direction people are leaning. That seems
Well,
good.
are we talking about the two or a third one when we talk about this?
No,
Like
I mean, I don't know that I would talk about that as
Okay.
being an option. Totally.
So kind of the tell me if everybody's in kind of agreement. We're kind of debating leaving it as proposed every 3 years for everybody, or only if you have done less births, under 10 in the previous year. Is that kind of the two we're discussing at the moment?
That's up to you guys, but I think so.
Think so. Okay. So then, is there any more discussion around that anybody needs before we do a little straw man informal count?
I mean, I heard lots of opinions about the possibility of, other in-person options.
But it sounds like then those options could be where the teacher who teaches it could maybe just sign off on like that would just count as your skills assessment if you took that class because the teacher could be a proctor and just sign off on it. Like
With
that would
no
make
incentive, the rural midwives are still probably not going to do that.
Right.
They're expensive courses, but it
they
doesn't.
are
And they'd have
That's
to
not-
travel. There's
not
not the
totally
numbers.
relevant to our straw poll, which is who's in favor of leaving the every 3 years for every midwife, and who's in favor of modifying that to be some subset of midwives who get less practice in theory. I think those are the two kind of questions on the table, and then we can focus on what we need to do to make either option more agreeable. What adjustments?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, let's just do a little tally, I guess, of where everybody's kind of at. So then for those, so I've never been the chairperson when we've done a straw poll, so I don't know if there's like a certain way to do this. Can I just kind of
You can do
see
it
a
two
raise of
ways.
hands?
Yep, you could do a raise of hands, or you could like call roll and have each person.
Okay. Okay. I just
name
want to
it
make sure
separately.
I don't do anything wrong. Okay, so let's just do the first one then. Leaving it as proposed every 3 years for all midwives. Who's in favor of that? And I'll do a little roll call. Unless everybody wants to turn on their cameras. I think everybody's cameras are on actually on the board.
It looks like it.
Yeah. Okay, let's just do a raise of hands then, because it's probably a little easier, and then I'll say out loud whose hands I see. So who's in favor of leaving it as proposed?
I lean toward that.
Okay, so Christine and Misha. And then who's in favor of if you have less than 10 bursts the previous year, you have to then do the skills retesting.
I mean, I'm in favor of actually eliminating it altogether, but between
Right.
those two options, this one's
Right.
better.
Okay, so that's myself, Rebecca, Lynette, and Lori. Okay. And so then whoever could answer this, probably Sammy. So then what's the next step if we are having this conversation, we're talking about these different options, would it then be like when do we officially vote?
Today, unless you want to take these new kind of a fresh take on this rule and put it out to the public again, you could do that as well. Just kind of depends on what you want to do.
That's if there's more significant changes, though, you said.
Correct. So if you guys want to just make these changes and vote, I think you can do that. Or you can put it out to the public. I don't think you're adding anything new. You're just kind of taking it, refining it, which is fine. So you can make these changes, vote today, and then become effective 90 days from whatever day or however you guys want to do it. If you want to use the same kind of way that OMC asked, well, if they're testing. And yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Well, I would ask the other board members what your feelings are. Like, are you guys feeling like we need more discussion? Do you want to vote?
Can I just ask a clarifying question, Sammy?
Sure.
For someone, like, let's say my license it expires in that 90 days or at the end of the 90. Let's say it's expiring at the end of the 90 days, because that seems more. And I'm going to renew. And I clearly haven't done this test before. Do I need to do it, or do we need, like, I do think that the grace period that OMC talked about could be valuable, and I'm trying to understand if there's already one built in or if
No.
we need to add an additional grace period.
We'd need to say, well, I mean, you could wait and just file these and making them effective on September 1st. But it's filing them and saying they don't become effective until September 1st gives people notice that, hey, we filed these, but they're not actually going to become effective until a while.
Right.
Yeah. So we would just put that in to.
And is that
whichever.
something that we need to vote on? Is that a change that we need to vote on?
Well, you would need you could wrap it up in one vote.
Okay.
At the end.
So yes, essentially.
Correct.
Okay. So do we need to better define the changes that would be made to accommodate the less than 10 births every 3 years?
What I heard you guys
Or
say
vote
is
on it?
take the language from the continuing education on if you do less than 5 births and you attest, so you in the renewal part would be the same. It would just be attest to, like, it could be number 4, attest to having blah blah blah, and then we'd have it on each renewal. And then if you didn't do it, you have to take just 3 skills exams and keep them on file. And if you get audited, then you have to show.
You have to,
And we wouldn't require the proctor send us a proof, just a test, and then if you're audited, you got to provide the proof.
you mentioned 3 skills exams.
The suturing, injections, and IV.
Okay. And the written exam.
Do you want the written exam included? Wasn't sure.
What's
So-
the proposal?
Yeah, I
You
thought we
guys
were just talking about the skills in person, yeah.
What's written down in the draft? Is it
All 4.
Okay.
All 4 every 3 years.
Like the written exam and then the 3 skills assessments.
That's what's in the rule, the proposed
Right.
rule.
And I mean, were we like, I don't know what other people had said, but I think that we were okay with the written
Mhm.
for everybody.
Oh, so every 3 years take the written? We hadn't talked about that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think that we were mostly just talking about the skills assessment itself. I don't know what
Okay.
how other people feel about that written exam still happening every 3 years for everybody. Is that what how does other people feel about that?
I'm in support of that.
Yeah.
Is anyone not in support of that?
So the written test every 3 years for everyone. And then the skills exam, which is, yeah.
The skills would be
Only-
required for new licensees, right?
Right. That's not going to change.
Right.
The
And
only thing
then,
that would change there is that showing proof of it. They would just attest to it in the application requirement. And then anybody doing less than 10 would need to pass the 3 skills. And my question was, and the written?
Yes, because that's true for
Okay.
everybody.
Okay.
yes.
But they could be doing this every year. If they only do 9 bursts every year, they're retaking these tests every year.
Well, they have to have it passed at least once within the last 3 years, right? Isn't that?
Well, you
Yeah, I
guys
feel
are
like if they
removing
passed-
that.
I think if they pass, it should last 3 years.
Well, you guys were requiring the 3 years.
No.
Well, would
So
everybody
you're
be
leaving the test being good for 3 years,
yes.
not requiring it of every midwife. Okay. Okay.
And I think those midwives that have a low volume, like if they take the skills exam, I don't know, this is my personal opinion, it should be good for 3 years.
Okay.
And then the next, I don't know if that's logistically difficult, but
I don't know how that would even work, but
Well, that's
we
what's already
we can do
proposed.
it.
That's just
Wouldn't you
proposed for
separate
everyone.
it? Wouldn't you separate it out and just
We-
put the written test as part of your annual, like in your CEUs, and then this skills is like a separate thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's already, the way it's proposed is you're going to have to figure out how to track doing the skills exam for every
No, it's
midwife.
just you guys just say it's active and you sign off and we move along.
But
the way-
HO is going to have to track who does it every 3 years.
Well, if you've told us that if you get tests on your renewal that it's still active, great. But you guys weren't going to do that. You guys aren't requiring it every 3 years.
We are requiring it every 3 years for people, or we're proposing requiring it every 3 years for people who do less than 10 births.
Okay, perfect.
Right? That sounds right?
yeah.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah, so if you had a year that you had 9 births, you would have to do it that year, but then it would cover you for 3 years.
Well,
Got it.
I think that's going to be a little bit up to interpretation because it's going to be hard to write all that out. But as long as when HLO does a audit, it's in there sometime in the last 3 years. Theoretically, they'd pass the audit.
I think your rural midwives are still going to be unhappy about this because the financial burden falls on them compared to people that are working where there's a pool to have more births and make more money.
Yep. And then I think, I mean, I know, Sammy, what did you find when you did the financial assessment? Because I think the conversation was around what the supplies would cost. Because theoretically, maybe, I mean, I would proctor for free. Maybe there, and again, it would be a tradesies with your buddy. You
Yeah,
sign off me, I sign off you. So the financial burden would really just be the supplies.
especially if there are people doing online proctoring, like somebody like Holly said she would.
Yeah, but
Uh,
Holly was going to charge for it.
oh, she was going to charge, right? Yeah. I mean, I would say that my thoughts are like rural midwives, it's even more important. They're doing low volume that they have these skills really good because it can take so long for EMS to even show up when they're really rural that it's actually more probably to their benefit to like make sure they're staying sharp on their skills because they are often the only one for quite a while helping the situation. But I do know like financially it's yeah, it's difficult. Um, but the supplies, I don't think it was a huge cost. If I remember the cost analysis, I don't remember the numbers though.
Maybe it's another thing we could encourage OMC, Andrew is still on here, to like take up a collection of expired supplies and help deliver it to rural midwives.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Or even have like maybe an OM, not an official OMC proctor, but like somebody who's in the organization who's willing to do it for free to help those that financially it's a burden.
Um, for looks like administering medications by injection, total cost $22.28. So this would be per client. For administering IV fluids, medications would be $57.53. Suturing would be $102.50, and then other items needed for all for like scissors and things like that you would use all the time, like $12. And you might need some never mind. That part's I was showing you where I got the information. So those were the costs that were associated with taking the 3 skills exams.
Those would probably be the costs if you had nothing, like if you didn't have suturing equipment or something though, because I can't imagine suturing like a packet of suturing materials is not that expensive. And if you already have suturing instruments, I wonder if that's more for like a brand new midwife.
Well, it would include the like lidocaine to practice injecting. It would include the
Yeah, that's just not very
needle and
expensive.
the syringe and you know,
But didn't she say like $100 for suturing
because
skills?
it's including all those things
That
at,
feels
I mean,
like, I don't know, I don't pay a lot for those things, I guess.
right. And I think that we can, so I do think it could be less. I think it could be free or darn close to it
Yeah,
if we pulled our expired supplies and shared them around.
yeah,
Because
I agree.
But then there's the cost of getting those expired supplies to the rural midwives, which would cost just as much as them ordering the materials themselves practically. So
maybe, I mean, I'd ship it
Maybe
to them.
not. Yeah, depends.
But regardless, I mean, m- either I understand that it feels unfair to rural midwives, and I wish that wasn't true, but it's unfortunately really unfair um to midwives who do fewer births, right? Which happens to be rural midwives. And again, I'm against the whole thing, but this is the compromise that I feel like the board is potentially able to make.
I mean, we could even, not us, but OMC could even have like maybe a fund to help cover the cost of the skills exams for those who are financially
Right?
in
Is it
hardship.
something that people could apply to for a grant from OMF for?
Yeah, maybe something like that. I don't know. So are we feeling like we want to vote today then? Because those changes don't sound like they're significant enough to need to be submitted back for public comment.
I think we should definitely vote today if it's possible, because this has been years in the making and there's a lot of people stuck in the middle trying to figure out what to
Yeah,
do to get licensed. But
I agree.
Sure, I get all my questions answered. This becomes a test.
Hmm. I'll just say in terms of the other little things that may be related to a vote today, do we feel clear on what we want to do about paramedics?
Yeah, I'm working down the list here. Can you hear me?
I would just take them off. Well, it would be great to have them able to do it because some of us may know a paramedic nearby. That there's a lot of other options on the table.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Does anybody disagree? Because I don't want to.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. I think all that's still good. And then the requirements to pay on proctor is still good. Just remove those two people, those two groups. It's valid for 3 years.
Is there a way to make sure that the proctor list stays, like, let's say they've applied, they're approved, they're proctors, and then if there starts to be, like, if the board receives a complaint, and then that ends up getting to like a final order process, like, would that person then be taken off the proctor list?
That's a great question. I don't know.
I just had that thought. Sorry to throw that out there.
That would probably be record keeping, but I will bring that up between licensing and enforcement.
Okay.
No, yes, right. And then, what was I trying to say? Is a 90 building in a 90-day? So I think there's a couple of things. So if we use it 90 days, right, when this stuff becomes effective, there could be people that apply, right, and we're going to issue them a license, and they won't have taken this test because it's not even available for 90 days. So you've got this little group of people that, I guess they would just not do it.
How
Never
soon?
mind. Right, never
how
mind,
soon
because
would-
it's not required every 3 years. So it's never mind.
Well, it's required of everyone. The written test is.
And all
Right.
new licensees.
Well, but it's not effective yet. So it'll catch them on renewal, but it won't catch them initially because it wasn't effective when they applied.
Will HLO be able to have that test added to will it be physically available in 90 days? Is that enough time for you guys to upload a test to a platform that's
That is
accessible?
my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
It is in the process.
Okay, great. And that test is going to be, there's no fee for it, right?
$50.
So in addition to your licensure costs, you're paying an extra $50 to take this test.
Correct.
And it's required every year with your license.
You guys are saying it is
Or
Not
every
every 3 years.
3 years.
every year.
Every
Every
3
It's just-
years.
It's an online test.
Yes. Sammy, just really clear, it's required every 3 years. That's the proposal. At initial licensing and every 3 years thereafter.
Right.
I don't love that it costs money, but
Is that
We can
because of
remove it.
administrative costs? Like, or is it to cover HLO costs of administering the test, or is it just added?
Yeah, all that. All of
All.
those things.
Could it be less? Like 25?
We have to take, yes, it could be 25.
who came up with that number? And is it in this packet?
It's been in the rules for many years.
It hasn't been in midwifery rule, so
Like HLO, other board
It has.
rules? Or
It has been in the board rules. Under.
have we had an exam that was
No, but it was just said Oregon Laws and Rules exam was $50, and I just changed the title.
Oh, okay.
So it's been in there. We just weren't offering an exam, and now we are.
Okay, well, that feels like another topic potentially for OMC's lobbying efforts to try to get that rule changed.
I don't really know what that means, but okay.
Well, can the board change that rule, or will the legislature have to change that rule?
HLO has fee authority, and then if they increase the fee or have a new fee, then it has to get codified by the legislature. If it gets reduced or taken away, it doesn't. Great, we can do that immediately. But if it goes up, increases, or it's a new fee, it has to be.
But
Eventually
HLO could also receive direction from the legislature to lower a fee.
Sure. We've had that before with this sport specifically.
Great.
Well, I don't love the $50 just because it's already, I know the license fee is already feeling burdensome for a lot of midwives. And $50 feels like a decent amount.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like it's something we can change today.
Right.
You could, I mean, Bob's the keeper of the fee, and then he has to run it up his chain. So, and it would be a discount of some kind.
I see. Like a permanent discount or a temporary one?
It would be like what's in the old, when I'm removing it's as of whatever date an applicant applying. It would be something, the fee, hold on. So written fee discount. So if you look at number 3 that's crossed out, I would write something about that fee being discounted until a certain date. It doesn't work with the language this time right now, but I would finagle it so that it did if he and his upper leadership decided it was approved.
But then if we voted today and approved it, the clock would start for the 90 days or not start for the 90 days?
I'm assuming it would start when it's filed, upon filing. I don't, that's up to you guys. It can be from today. I could put from today's date in the rule, or
But Bob needs to run
filed.
a chain. So I'm trying to decide if that affects the implementation. If we say we want it to be 25 and we ask Bob to run it up the chain, does that
I don't
do
know
we
how
get
long that would
approval for
take.
that before it will be filed? I assume so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still waiting for sign language interpreter fees, so so that's
Yeah.
Word is not licensed to them at this point. If Bob has a stand up.
So if the fee is discounted, we don't necessarily have to go through the process. But as a new fee, it must go through what they refer to as the Senate Bill 333 process, which gets approved by DAS, and then at the next legislative session it gets codified or could get codified.
It's not a new fee though.
It's not. It sounds like it's not. If we were to discount it, then it doesn't need to go that direction, the 333 direction. But the issue that I have with reducing the fee is the fact that the board is so far in the negative.
I'm gonna restart my computer and come right back, but it's kind
Well,
of freaking me out because we're in yellow time right now.
Mine's going to do the same thing.
Oh, it is?
Sorry, we have no control over that. Chair, can we take maybe a 5-minute break?
I mean, we're gonna have to reboot, and I think we have to change our passwords.
To 10 minutes?
So
7
more
minutes?
than, you want to do 10 minutes?
Okay, let's do 10 minutes. We'll come back at
10:19.
10:20.
10:20.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're back and we're gonna do a quick roll call. Lennon Clark here, Rebecca Fisher,
Here.
Lori Headland,
Here.
Christy Morales,
Here.
Lynette Pettibone,
Here.
and Misha Ronick.
Here.
Okay, where were we? I don't remember what we were last talking about. We were talking about the fees for the exam, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that still kind of something we're talking about now? I think I think Lynette, it was you who said that you're in favor of trying to move this forward sooner than later. I feel the same
Well,
because
Bob
it
was
has been
talking
so long.
about the process of adjusting the fee and if that was
Yeah,
possible and what it looked like. Like we could propose a reduced fee and then he'd have to run it up the flagpole, and there was some conversation about whether or not it had to be approved or not, or we could offer
right.
the discount for a certain amount of time, or like there was a bunch of conversation that I wasn't totally tracking. Um,
Yeah, this is Bob. So the fee process is lengthy, and we wouldn't even with the new fee. So this is not a new fee, if I understood that right, Sammy. So to discount it, we wouldn't have to go through a process. We would just discount it. But I think my last statement to that note was the board's over $400,000 in the negative. And if I were to be called on giving a discount, so I'm not inclined, I'll just put that out there. I'm not inclined to give a discount. And if I was convinced to do a discount and I were called on it, I'd have a pretty difficult time explaining why there's a discount when the board is so far in the negative.
do we know what the actual cost is
Actual cost of what?
administering the test?
Well, I've got staff that have to be paid. I've got just managing the questions and managing that system. And we're coming up on in the next, so we got staff fees to pay
Yeah, but
basically.
is that theoretically is mostly a one-time fee, right? Because we're gonna add this test and it's gonna all be automated. And once that's true, nobody has to do anything to touch it unless or until there's an audit. And then whoever's performing the audit will dig through to make sure that the
Well, it has to be
Right.
maintained in the system and kept up to date, and we have to pay for the storage. I mean, there's other things than just
Yeah.
sitting there that goes on.
It's
And
not just a one-time fee.
yeah, this is Tina. Plus, Bob, don't forget the new system. There will be additional fees to that.
Yeah, so there's a new test system coming online. We're in the middle of RFP now, and I'm hoping by the end of the year it'll be with us, and folks will be able to test from home, or from a school or from a location wherever they have a camera, and they'll be able to test online. So yeah, so it's not just a one and done. It's a lot of it's just the maintaining it, and the staff have to audit the questions, make sure they're still relevant, make sure that workday is
staff
still working
that didn't
properly.
staff isn't the ones that develop the question. So are we having a panel of midwives
That's
evaluate
not,
questions?
they worked with the subject matter experts to create the test. So
Right.
Right. And so
So
they have to upload it and maintain it. The staff upload it and maintain it.
along with all the other tests that HLO administers.
Yes.
So it's not all on the midwifery board.
No, 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 no. The pricing gets spread out a percentage of direct and indirect costs. Well, not indirect costs, not direct. Indirect costs are shared with all the boards or whoever's got tests up on whoever takes a test on the system.
So again, I think this is a place that my time is limited on the board, and I don't think I can bring that up in new board business at a future meeting, but I would highly encourage both the board and OMC to consider avenues for reducing the debt. In Washington, we have a line item in the general budget that helps backfill that debt so that it doesn't exist and helps reduce the burden on midwives in exchange for the amazing outcomes that midwives provide and the money that the midwives save the state in terms of healthcare costs overall. because of the small number of licensees, it's really hard for midwives to support the entire program.
The entire midwife program?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's why Lennon used to pay $2,400, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And so is it reasonable and like from your perspective, financials, to reduce the exam to a bit less than 50? Or you're saying that it would be difficult to be kind of put on the spot and explain why when our
Yeah.
board is so in the negative?
I mean, that's my concern that, the math just doesn't work out, and I may have to answer to why did we give a discount? I mean, I can pretty much do what we need to do, within the law, within the confines of the law, but at the same time, I've got to I might be culpable or might have to respond to, the director's office, the above me, as to why do you have a $400,000 deficit and then you give a discount?
Well, because it's a new fee and it improves safety and reduces costs for rural midwives where maternity care options are already limited. I mean, I think there is a response and we can help you craft that, certainly. It's just a matter of how comfortable you are providing that response.
Oh, I'm comfortable letting them know that, I mean, they'll ask the questions and I'll give them a response. And that's definitely something worth taking into consideration. So I mean, yeah, I just can't reduce it at this time.
Yeah. And right now the exam is every 3 years, we were saying, correct? Because you could potentially make the case of, like $50 spread out over 3 years. It's pretty small in that view of it, I suppose. I wouldn't want this to be the thing that makes us not move forward with having at least something in place to kind of help improve, to help ensure that everybody's on the same page with skills and knowledge around these topics. And it is money. It is $50.
I get that.
But yeah, it's still not, I don't think it's completely too much of a burden if we think about it spread out over 3 years.
And I appreciate that. I can talk to our analyst and get a better picture of what that fee, once the money's coming in, what it could look like with the number of licensees that we have. And then again, it's easier for us to give a discount than to increase a fee.
So I guess
So if we left it where it is, then I can talk to the analyst and see what a real picture is going to look like.
So you propose that we leave it like it is today, and then we can evaluate changing that in the future, offering a discount at some point in the future?
Yeah.
Okay. So like we'd put that like quote unquote in our parking lot and it would be,
Well, if you vote on the rules and it's in the rule, then it would be effective in 90 days. But before that 90-day period comes, I can have the analyst just take a look and give me the numbers, and the board meets frequently enough, we can bring it back to the board. Or we can just not, we can bring it back in as much as showing the numbers and a yes or no.
I don't. Yeah, okay.
yeah, I'm just wondering if that works or if we have to restart their 90 days if there's a change.
Oh, that's a good question. Sam,
I'm unsure. So just have to wait. I don't, I mean, the board would,
I mean, it might be worth restarting the 90 days. So I don't know, if we can reduce it by $25 or offer a discount, but I don't know how the other board members feel about it. So.
I
don't think it's worth the amount of time it takes to reduce it, seeing as how every 3 year, $50. I don't think it would keep somebody from not getting licensed or renewing.
Well, we have public testimony asserting that it would, but or that yeah, any of this is going to place undue burden. But again, I'm not necessarily willing. I don't think we should delay the vote because of it, or we should. I mean, it's potentially worth having Bob look at it and then coming back to the next meeting or the following meeting with more information, and potentially having to restart the 90 days. But I don't know.
quite understand what restarting the 90 days means.
Well, if
I
we
mean,
make the change, have
don't
to.
begin that part of the rule. Let me finish. Beginning that specific rule and the every 3 years for the current licensees and starting their 90 days over. I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Or we starting the rulemaking process.
No, so my understanding is that once we vote and approve a rule and it gets submitted, that there's a 90-day waiting period until it goes into effect. Is
I
that
mean,
accurate?
that's your guys' choice. I can file today and they would be active today. I could
Okay.
file tomorrow and it could be back, whatever you call that, going backwards.
Okay.
It's up to you guys how.
Okay. I didn't understand that.
I agree that I don't want to put off it longer over this one issue. That's kind of my thought about it. And so if we can, yeah, I don't think this should be the thing that makes us wait longer, but maybe, I don't know.
I don't think it should make us wait longer either.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want like a straw poll to assess if people want Bob to check into it, or if people just want to go ahead and approve it with the $50 fee?
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll just to clarify, like what Lynette just said, either just move forward with it the way that it is, or have Bob check in and get back to us at a later date, or maybe the next meeting.
Well, and just clarify that
Yeah.
we could still vote to approve it today. It would just
Right.
be this one thing that could be changed.
So really want to have it changed positively.
That I got to double check if we can change that. I think it's okay because it was in the proposed rules and it's technically HLO has that responsibility. So I think it could be changed. But I would just want to double check that.
Okay. So we'll just do, let's see. I think, Lori, are you able to have your camera on real quick? We'll just do a show of hands real quick. So to leave it as is and just move forward, a quick show of hands. Okay, so that was myself, Misha, Rebecca, Christine, and Lori. And then Lynette, I'm assuming you would vote for the other option of having Bob check in and get back to us and possibly
Yeah, I
change.
just don't see that delays anything, but, and I
Okay.
might as well try to offer it,
It
but
doesn't delay and it doesn't, you don't need to vote on it. I'm
We can still
half
just do
done
it.
crafting the email.
Okay. Okay. So then does that mean that we're ready to move forward with voting? Everybody? How do y'all feel?
Do you want me to go down the list and then see if everyone's comfortable? I mean,
Well, is there anybody that's not comfortable? Let me say it that
well,
way.
there's two people that weren't approving the idea of having this testing not be for everyone, that
Right,
weren't
that first straw poll, right?
right. So presumably those two people could vote nay, and that would be still passing. So, but maybe just for clarity, Sammy can read the changes that we propose, and
Yeah.
then we can.
is there 5 board members on here or 6?
There's 6 of us.
Lori.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6.
Okay.
Myself, Misha, Lynette, Rebecca, Christine, and Lori. And that's our whole board at the moment.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first one would be, oh, that's not right. I'm gonna go down each page, but give me 1 second here. Comments. Okay. So starting on what would be page 14 of yours is that instead of submitting proof of having passed all 4 of the Legend Drugs exams, it would just be attest to those and no submission from the proctor. Just the applicant attest and move on. I think this one goes away as well. Yeah, so this will be caught when they renew. They'll have to take the written every 3 years. So that number 5 goes away.
If you want to share your screen, Sammy, are you marking up the proposal?
I mean, roughly.
Okay, it's fine if you're not really.
I'm not even sure. Did I
This
share
would
the
be
correct
easier.
screen? Do I get to see what screen I'm sharing?
Yeah, you're sharing it.
Okay. Okay, so this is number 5 would go away because this is going to get caught upon renewal with just renewing, just having to take the written every 3 years. That this is just saying the applicant must maintain their records. 7 goes away. This is the skills exam must be sent to HLO, which is not true. They're gonna attest now, so that goes away. This was already in the proposed rule to go away. This one should stay the same. This is just saying these are the competencies. Okay, right here. This is going to have to be modified to these will have to be modified to make sure that it only is reflecting taking the written exam every 3 years. Are we still doing the skills for the under? Because that could be relevant here. I haven't had time to think through it, but that may need to be added here. If they've done less than 10 bursts, that they'll have to take the skills exam every 3 years. Is that part of this? That's a possible change. I'll just say that. And this just outlines what those tests are, so that wouldn't change. That's just how to become a proctor. You guys talked about these special courses, but never landed on anything. So I'm gonna assume that's gonna be on the side for another day.
I think where we landed with it is just that those people, the instructors for those courses could become proctors, and therefore it could end up counting for this.
Right. And I said, well, I would need to know what are the requirements for these guys to become these also instructors, and then I would put that requirement into the rule.
Well, they would already meet one of the requirements listed. They would be an RN or an ND or whatever the people are that are already in the list.
Okay, then we don't need these courses.
Yeah.
Oh, this must be kept. This would go away. This must be kept current. Fees. Okay, this is if somebody who didn't have 10 bursts failed, this would be the fail. How to retake the skills exam, so that should stay the same. The proctor information is good, except for removing paramedic and advanced EMT and all of the categories. Oh, what did I do? This is the rule that talks about, did you want to, you guys talked about people from other states. I mean, you could take, that's really what number 6 is that if somebody say is, I don't know, in Kentucky and they meet the requirements to test, they can provide a substantial equivalency. They could proctor. And I think, did you want to remove this? Because you guys were kind of up in the air about out of state people. Tell me, give me some, not sure. Oh, I'm on page, I'm sorry. Page, page. Page number 21. Page 21, number 6.
I don't think, this is Misha, I don't think we settled on how to solve the potential complications of how to make sure a proctor is,
Right.
adequately trained. And honestly, I think that's a pretty complicated discussion, in my opinion. That
I agree.
I don't
Train the
think,
trainer.
I
We
don't
have
think
that
can
discussion in
really-
all of our professions.
Yeah.
So do you want to leave the number 6 kind of open as an option? Because if I recall, it was more so if somebody was coming from another state to get licensed in Oregon, that if they're training in that state, because we don't have reciprocity here, you have to have NARM and then you have to have other things. But I'm not even sure this is even relevant now because you don't have to take this every, I don't know, it's up to you guys if you want to keep 6.
You do still have that issue if people are moving from another state to Oregon and they're wanting to have taken that skills exam before they move.
Right. That's kind of what number 6 is supposed to catch, but it could catch it could result in bad actors as well.
I think many of the things on this list can result in bad actors. That's why Misha's saying that this is a potential sticking point, but I don't know how to fix it. So
What I'm asking is if you want to leave it.
I know, but like Misha kind of talked about, it's a bigger conversation. So if somebody has
I understand.
Well,
I just,
yeah,
Well,
sorry.
I would, oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Lynette. You want to
no, go
finish?
for it.
Okay, I was gonna just say the thing is if we're allowing people to do this online, like virtual skills examination, there wouldn't really be a need to have non-Oregon preset. I mean, I don't know. I totally agree. There's a lot of problems that we're not gonna probably be able to totally fix, but also the thought I just had was that we don't really, my first thought was, why are we having out-of-state preceptors if we have an online option? But then we also are saying we want maybe these instructors from these more advanced skills workshops in person. We want them to become proctors and they're going to be out of state. So I guess we do need to leave the out-of-state option for sure if we're saying we want those instructors to become proctors to sign off on things. Yeah, I don't know that there's an easy way to figure out the proctor situation. But I think we should leave it. So I'm going to say I think we should leave the out of state part.
And then what about, do you think we should leave the virtual option? That's number 7.
Well, I'm in favor of that only because I think it would make it more accessible for those rural who might have to, like Tiffany's comment said it's like a 10-hour round trip for her to go see the nearest midwife. Like, so I think that in that sense it would be probably, I don't know. What do other people think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I don't like the online option because I don't think you're learning the skills we're assessing the skills as thoroughly, but that would be burdensome for those rural midwives.
And I think it's probably better than nothing, which is what we have right now in some ways, for them to have at least something, some kind of conversation with somebody to talk about those skills, even if it is online. Because I also think it's better in person. But But I think in terms of us hearing what the public is saying to us about accessibility and costs, like it makes sense to still have a virtual option.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious what Misha and maybe Christine would propose in terms of overall how to assess a proctor. Like, do you think that this list of proctors and proctor requirements is, it sounds like we already kind of decided that maybe it's not really adequate to make sure to accomplish the goal of making sure people are um, up to date on their skills in these areas. But what changes would you guys recommend making in order to better assure that?
For how to assure that the proctor is competent?
Mhm.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, the proctor is competent, and then therefore adequately able to assess the skill and identify licensees who are not, performing these tasks accurately.
I mean, does the OMC have any kind of specific, I don't know, class that is taught or,
I mean, train the trainer or
yeah.
proctor the proctor. These questions come up in many of our professions, and I don't know that there's a great way of solving it. So, and we've done things here, but not, it wouldn't be this would this wouldn't work for sure.
So in light of no better ideas, we're gonna work through this being an imperfect system, right?
I mean, I don't think any of the ideas are perfect, so I think, yeah.
Okay, so we're leaving 6 and 7, and then number 10 I'm going to remove because it's not relevant because we're not even giving whoever teaches they may do on the job training. So I'm not sure how 10 even got in there. And then 11 would go away because proof isn't required. The applicant would just need to keep the proof, or the licensee who did less than 10 births. I think this stays the same. License renewal. Okay, this would change to the written legend drugs and to the written portion of the legend drugs and devices exam within the last 3 years. And then here we're gonna stay at 18 every year, 18 hours, and you're able to carry forward 18 hours to the next year. We're gonna leave it at 1 hour. Oh, we're gonna just do what the statute says, 1 hour in legend drugs and devices. And then we're on page 14, nope, 27. And where it's number 3 is, I'll be taking this same basic text and creating if you did less than 10 bursts, then you must take the 3 skills exams. So I didn't rewrite that yet, but that's the language I'm going to use. All that stays the same. That stays the same. Oh, oh, this will go to on page Oh, there's the carry forward. So where this says having passed legislative devices exam, it will be a written portion every 3 years, and probably want to make sure that there's something added about if they have done under 10 births. And then I think everything after that, you guys haven't changed anything past page 33 that I heard.
Just one more quick kind of question to pose, mostly probably to the licensed midwives on the board. Do you guys feel comfortable leaving CPM as one of the qualified preceptor types? Or would you feel comfortable removing that? I think that would make me feel better so that it's not necessarily, it could be an LDEM or it could be a licensed midwife in another state, but they would have to be more than just a CPM to be.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
right now, a non-licensed CPM could be a proctor.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm in favor of making it an LDM CPM. Or,
Yeah, same. I didn't
just
even
taking
think
out the
about that.
CPM language. Yeah, just put LDM. Or a licensed CPM in another state. Is that what you were saying?
Well, not everyone uses the LDM. You could
Right.
write it out and say licensed direct entry midwife, but
Licensed. Yeah.
not everyone uses that designation. A lot of states just use the LM,
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point.
but just calling it a licensed midwife.
Right.
So you could potentially just adjust A to licensed midwife and then eliminate B.
Okay. That's broad.
It was already that broad, more or less.
Oh,
It was actually a little bit broader because lots of people have CPMs that aren't licensed in any particular state.
okay. I'm removing the B from all the next ones and removing Oregon. So then do you still want to keep 6? Because this is really for people licensed. I guess that could catch somebody else. Never mind. Okay.
So that's the end of that then, right? And we got all the
Yeah. We'll
Okay.
need to make sure that, well, now that I've said it, make sure that's what's been agreed upon. And yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want there to be any confusion about what you're actually voting for.
Right. So does anybody on the board have feel good about that? Any concerns? Feel like anything was missed in terms of what we are proposing to change and vote on?
Well, Misha and Christina definitely didn't like a piece of it. You could vote on that piece separately
Okay.
so that not everything else. I mean, that's an option.
I don't know that it matters, but I mean, we're asking them to provide feedback.
Yeah, they
No,
just vote no and then it still passes.
exactly. But if they
If-
have feedback on the particular changes that we're making that would make them feel better about it, we'd be open to hearing it for sure.
Mhm.
Well, I think that they just think it was the way it was the better way of moving forward. I don't know if there's any other feedback than that.
I'm good. I don't need to do I don't have any more discussion from my end.
Yeah.
We've hit it.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh my God, now I've got 1s and 2s everywhere. What's happening?
Okay, so
Heather,
there's Heather, yeah.
Sorry, getting all the buttons clicked. I just recommend that if you're going to make a motion, that you include in the motion any other edits to the rules that correspond with the amendments the board has approved. That way, when Sammy is going through and editing, if there's another piece of a rule that needs to be edited that corresponds to the changes that you're making today, that she can do that. So if you're going to approve the rules as amended, including any edits that are required based on the board's amendments today, something to that extent, if that makes sense.
Does it need to be specific, or could we just say what you just said? Like, do we need to list out all the particular changes, or can we just say with the board's edits as discussed today?
It would be best to list out the changes that you made, the amendments, unless they are different than what Sammy just went through. It would be best to list out those changes. You could do so broadly. So.
And I would prefer not to be a part of the motion. I'm happy to vote in favor of this change, but I think just based on the fact that I don't really want to have this requirement at all, that it'd be better if someone else made the motion.
Am I able to make a motion as the chairperson? I don't even know.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
I have a question. So, never mind. No question.
Sammy can, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Sammy. This is Bob. So Sammy can read the changes with the motion, and then someone from the board other than the chair can say so moved. I typically take notes, but I was not. I apologize. I don't know if anybody else was taking note of the specific changes other than Sammy.
I can do it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to start now. There'll be a 90-day grace period before this starts based on when it's filed. Instead of submitting proof of passing the 4 pieces of the Ledger Drugs Devices exam, it will be a test to it. Proctors do not need to send HLO the documentation that they've passed the exam. Just need to keep it on file. So that takes these away. That's all good. On Rule 332-15075, proctor application requirements, we're removing Oregon licensed paramedic and Oregon licensed advanced medical technician, NARM CPM, a NARM certified professional midwife, and an Oregon licensed professional midwife, and changing to just a licensed direct entry midwife. And that would be under 2, 3, and 4. Just for the record, we're going to keep 6. That somebody that doesn't meet the requirements can be substantially equivalent and provide us information. And for the record, we're going to leave 7, which allowing them to do virtual exams. Oh, number 10 is being removed because I'm unsure why it's even there. And the proctor doesn't need to submit anything to HLO, so 11 goes. That's good. This is just adding under G, we'll say the written portion of the exam every 3 years. Same thing for 3G, written exam. We're going to leave the CEs at 18-hour annual for 18 hours, but we're going to carry forward the 18 hours. And number 2, we're changing it to just 1 hour in Legend Drugs and Devices, and then the LDM can decide what that looks like. Number 3 is current law that says any midwife that's provided fewer than 5 births must do 10 hours of continuing education. I'm going to take this and redo it, basically saying that any midwife that's done less than 10 births must do the 3 skills assessment exams, and those would be good for 3 years. And I think that, oh, and that'll be the carry forward. That'll actually go away. And I think that was it. Oh, have to change this to the written exam. Yep, that's it.
Heather, raise your hand. Yeah.
Did that include changing the proctors to a licensed midwife and
Yes.
taking out the CPM,
Yes.
but having the licensed midwife both be Oregon and non-Oregon?
I said, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I said all those things, but you've made it clearer.
Thanks. Sorry, I missed it.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Maybe Lori or Rebecca.
I'll share this, Bob. The only thing they would need to say is so moved with Sammy's reading of the changes.
Okay.
I can do
Okay,
that.
so this is Rebecca and I move that we so move with the changes that were identified by Sammy.
Okay. Do we have any seconds?
This is Lori Headland and I second.
Okay. We will call for votes now. Lennon Clark, yes. Rebecca Fisher,
Aye.
Lori Headland,
Aye.
Christy Morales,
Nay.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Misha Ronick.
Nay.
Okay. So the motion passes. And what next do we have to do?
Public comment.
Public. Okay. That's right. Oh, so we're moving on to the next
Yeah,
portion. Okay.
I'll get these filed in the next week, and then we'll start. I'm thinking the date will be like, let's see. September 1st. I'll reach out to OMC and kind of fill out, because I know they're going to do some training and things like that. Make sure that we have a good date for the rollout.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your help.
And presumably HLO will send email to every licensee notifying them.
Absolutely.
Okay. So moving on to item number 10, which is public interested parties feedback. At this time, the Board of Director and Midwifery will hear public and interested parties' feedback. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this board has statutory authority to regulate. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and will not be allowed if they are disruptive to the board's conduct of its business. If you are called on to comment, HLO staff will request the public member to unmute themselves. The chairperson and HLO reserve the right to end a person's comment early and have HLO staff mute the public member if the comment does not pertain to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this board has statutory authority to regulate. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? If so, please raise your hand or use the Zoom raise hand feature and wait to be acknowledged. Okay.
Chair, this is Bob. I see Andrea Keating's hand is up.
Okay. So we can have Andrea unmute and share her public comment.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Keating, and I am current president of the Oregon Midwifery Council. Thank you all for being here today and discussing these very, very important decisions. We also have comment from our executive director, Emilia Allen, but there was a schedule conflict, so I might share her thoughts at the end of mine if she's not able to rejoin within the public comment period. But I'll start with my own. Let's see, about 2 weeks ago, I sent an initial email including Sammy, Lennon, and Josh Page just for record keeping, and then I resent it 9 days ago, including Trampus. And my email addressed a topic that's come up a couple times today, which is our LDM license fees and also the debt burden carried by our board. So I'll read out my email. Apologize for the formality of that, but want to make sure I capture all of my thoughts, and then I might have more to add at the end. So I'll begin. Many of our members have recently expressed to our organization, the Oregon Midwifery Council, that the initial licensure and renewal costs of the LDM license are prohibitive to financially sustainable midwifery practice. This was also expressed during public comment periods for the proposed LD&D rule change in the context of accumulating costs to maintain licensure. We are concerned by the number of midwives expressing that they are considering leaving the profession or moving to unlicensed practice due to the financial burden of licensing fees when they would prefer to carry a license. We are hoping to identify a pathway to reducing those fees that would work in the context of Oregon's laws and rules. A potential model for our approach is Washington State. They have a license fee cap in place of $525, which is partnered with a proviso in the governor's budget that allocates general funds to cover the difference between license fees and expenses. This has been in place since 2011, and I can send more information. The initial questions that OMC has at this point in time are as follows. Is there an established process for a body of licensees to petition HLO to reduce their license fees? If there is not a process, what would be the first steps to partnering with HLO to try to build a process? And are there any licensing boards in Oregon who have their expenses offset by another funding source to limit their license fees? And if so, what is the structure of that system? We are so grateful for your time, and we look forward to learning more so we can address and try to work through this. And also, importantly, I think for consideration of the board is that the Oregon Midwifery Foundation is not currently operating in terms of providing funds. They no longer have a president and haven't since the beginning of this year. And we've been actively recruiting. The 2 people on their board are also on our board, but we have been unable to. So in regards to filling funding gaps, unfortunately, at this time, OMF is not able to do that. So I want to make sure I didn't forget. Should I move to the next comment, or is there an opportunity for me to get maybe some responses?
I think we should stick to this comment first so that we don't muddy the waters. But I would love to hear if HLO has anything, but then I can offer my thoughts. Can you guys answer the questions of whether or not there's any other?
Okay. Hi, this is Bob. Andrea, thank you. We did receive your email. We've been working on a response, and we'll get that sent out to you probably today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I look forward to
But can you answer
reading
those
it.
questions publicly about whether or not there's any other boards that have a licensing cap or have been able to offset the program costs in another way?
I'm not 100% sure. I do know that there are other boards that receive, for example, federal dollars. But as far as caps and receiving general fund, in my section, I don't know of any. So I don't know if any of the other boards, massage or tax consultants, or if anybody else receives any general fund money. HLO does not receive general fund money. And so, yeah, that was a hard question to answer, but we'll get her response. And typically during the public comment, we don't respond. We let public make their comment, and then we work on it behind the scenes if there's something that needs to be done. But yeah, her email that she just read to you is being answered.
And then Andrea, my response is that I do think that the board is unfortunately going to be able to provide much support, and that that OMC's best avenue is through the legislature. And if you want to reach out to me independently, I'm happy to talk through. In Washington, I've participated in lobbying for that effort many times. And in 2025, we also got approved a licensing cap for birth center licensing fees. And I was directly involved in that. And I'm happy to help talk you through how we went about it.
Thank you. I got to talk with Kristen Eflin about it, and so I'd love to talk to you too, Lena, and I'll reach out independently about that. So thank you also, Bob, for some of that information, and I really look forward to receiving it. Unfortunately, Emilia won't be able to make it to the meeting, and the public comment that she wished to share is that it is her opinion as the executive director of OMC, and I agree as the president that the decision to modify the rules to be specific to requiring renewal differently for midwives with a certain number of births, we feel it would have been more appropriate to bring that to public comment before making a decision, because it's our opinion that it is a meaningful change, which I understand doesn't impact the vote, but we just wanted to share that as our reflections after today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for sharing, Andrea. Are there any other public comment? Anybody here for public comment besides Andrea? No. Okay, so then does that mean we're going to be moving on to item number 11? Executive session?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say goodbye. Bye, everyone. Thank you for your help.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Sammy. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. The Board of Directors of Midwifery will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F and ORS 676.595 for the purpose of considering information or records that are exempt by law from public discourse at 11:22 a.m. on May 28th, 2026. Representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Audience members attending through Zoom will now be moved into a separate breakout room, and audience members attending in person are asked to leave the room both for the duration of executive session. Those authorized to attend the executive session, please continue to keep your phone muted and camera off. Are there any representatives of the news media on Zoom?
There does not appear to be any,
Doesn't look
Chair.
like it. Okay. Recognizing there is no news media in attendance, the public will be moved into a separate breakout room for the duration of the executive session. We will return to an open session before taking any final action or making any final decisions. It is estimated that the board will return to public session at, do we have an estimate of time?
Heather Trampus.
Yeah, this is Trampus. I would say a half an hour.
Okay, so it's 11:23 right now. So should we say 11:55? How about? We will return to public session at 11:55 a.m. Please be aware that it is possible that the board's executive session may last longer than 11:55 a.m. If the public has any questions about whether the board is still in executive session, then the public can contact Josh Page at josh.page@oha.oregon.gov. We are now in executive session. Okay. The Board of Director Entry Midwifery will now exit executive session and reconvening open session at 12:09 p.m. No final decisions were made and no votes were taken in executive session. The public will be moved from the big breakout room back into the meeting, and representatives of the media may once again report all board discussions and actions. Okay, so now we're down to number 13 on the agenda, board motion and votes. Do we have any motions?
Yes, this is Lynette Pettibone, and in case number 26-11805 and 26-11820, I move that we open them.
Okay, any seconds?
This is Lori Hedlund, and I second the motion.
Okay, I will now take a vote. Lennon Clark, aye. Rebecca Fisher,
Aye.
Lori Headland,
Aye.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Misha Ronick.
Aye.
Okay, that motion is passed. Do we have any other motions?
Yes, once again, this is Lynette Pettibone, and I move that in case number 26-11815, we do not open and refer per the board's direction.
Okay, any seconds for that motion?
This is Lori Headland. I second the motion.
Okay, we will now take vote. Lennon Clark, aye. Rebecca Fisher,
Aye.
Lori Headland,
Aye.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Misha Ronick.
Aye.
Okay, that is passed. And do we have any other motions? I don't believe so. No. Okay. And are there, then the last number 14, it says any other board business. Do we have any other board business?
Chair, this is Bob. I don't have anything, but I will report that the email that Andrea Keating brought up has been sent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so if there's no other board business, that looks like the end of the meeting. So the Board of Direct Entry Midwifery meeting is adjourned at 12:12 p.m.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.